What up, everyone? Switch Double here, and as always, it's Saturday, and it's time for another stream. I know, it has been a while since I actually made any actual stream. Um, there is a reason for I wasn't streaming for the past 2 weeks or so. I was planning to do a stream on my birthday, the day before Halloween, and we were planning to do a stream for Halloween too, but the thing is, the reason why we didn't do a stream on Saturday on Halloween this year, well, there were some problems with the game guy's his phone wasn't getting the invitation for the link to this on Discord for my stream, so and Malachite was unfortunately not even available to do it, so yeah, I was like, I was like, I didn't feel like to do it anymore. So, so the Halloween stream was unfortunately canceled. And last week we were planning to do this also another game show stream, and that was also for Halloween type of stream we were planning to do, but it didn't happen since, like I said, many people, some of my friends weren't even unable to tune in. Some others, like Game Guy, didn't get. Um, he had his issue with that he can't see any notifications on his phone when someone message him or posting at the DM where he is along with me and a few other friends that he doesn't receive any of the messages. So he wasn't aware that I actually have posted the link to the stream or at least prepare for it. Like I think like an hour later. So yeah, um so that's at least unfortunately that's the main reason why I haven't done streams lately. I mean, I was planning to do this Gage stream on cryptids on Halloween, but since Game is unfortunately phone edition, as he called it, was acting up, and Malachite was, well, he didn't respond then. Yeah, so that was just a slight problem with that, so it makes sense. So, what else? Well, I mean, considering that it was also my birthday about the day before Halloween, since that was on my first day, I was like, hey, I want to do a birthday stream, but most of my friends was unable to join in, so I was like, screw it. I just do something else instead. Yeah, so it happens, it happens. I know very many of my friends are have their own lives. But there were a time only about maybe a week ago, I was actually considering, since most of my friends had been unable to join the stream lately, and today, unfortunately, is that also Game Guy won't be able to join in due to the fact that he is actually going to be on a party to celebrate one of his cousins' birthdays. So yeah, he won't be able to join in. So, well, I mean, it makes sense. If you've had to be part of the family obligations, you have to. So yeah, so most of my friends probably won't be even joining in today. I was even thinking of doing a Hangman stream yesterday, but that didn't happen either since unfortunately that most of my friends was on but like I was had to do some chores. Game guy's phone was didn't even receive the notification on Discord, so yeah, that was a few reasons to why suddenly that he didn't show up. So yeah, and it kind of makes sense. And this is something not something new for Game Guy's case. This has been going on for at least a few years now. Even if you do get a new phone or new computer or something, it's still acting up. So it's no matter how many people like, hey, he should just get a new phone or a new computer so that he will receive the messages on Discord. But Unfortunately, Game Guys, no matter what he does, even if he plays good, would get the most the newest phone, or the most factory brand new computer, it doesn't even matter. And FNA-127, what's up? Yeah, not much happening. Just chilling. Yeah, some gaming guy won't be able to join in due to the fact he is one of his cousins has his birthday today, so he is unfortunately unavailable. Uh, Kuvo Malachite, I don't know about them since uh, um, maybe they'll do something else. Lord Sidges, our friend from Scotland, yeah, unfortunately, he hasn't even been able to join in my streams for wow, how long has it been? Um, Not even a year. That's not a few weeks, but I'd say at least a few months. But um, mostly it's the fact that he is in college. He is in Scotland, so and he usually goes out with his other friends, party, drinking, whatever. No matter, I don't know what he's doing. So and some of other friends like the twins, they hadn't even been my my stream lately for the past few months either. Due to the fact that they have work, they work in some factory. And what kind of factory? Don't know. Hadn't even asked. But there is a few of my friends that hadn't even been around in the stream at all in quite a long time, which is like Stormy. I mean, he's also a teenager. He's started high school I think like a year ago. So yeah. Who else? Crystal hasn't been in my stream in a while, so that's a bit I wasn't disappointing, but more like I mean, it's understanding as if she has some things in her life that she had to do, and uh, and also the time zone difference. Just to point that out, since most of my friends lives in the U.S. and different states, that means different time zones. So that makes perfect sense. For example for me in the Lord, it's just only 1 hour between our time zones, so it's not much a difference there. So yeah, I mean, I know for many of my friends are had even been much interacting, but one of my friends that I hadn't even talked in, I think it's almost 2 to 3 years, which is Diana. Of all of my friends, she just vanished. I mean, Diana has when she first appeared on my friend list among my friends on Discord and on my streams, she were there almost constant, almost every single time. But then she vanished. She just completely vanished. I don't know what happened to her since. I don't know really. Don't know. I mean, one day she was just there talking to her, and then one day Diana just poof vanished. We had even heard from her in over. The last time I actually heard from her was only about had been at least a few months ago. But I know for a fact that Diana was she was pretty friendly. Oh, I got it. Yeah, but Diana was she was very friendly. Sure, there was some times when, especially at that time when she acted as a different person as her cousin Star or Stella. And that was, I mean, we weren't even aware of any of that until she come clean about it, confessed to Lord. Yeah, so that was shocking. But to turn out that she reached out to Lord of all of our friends that she was Star the whole time. I understand if she had chosen one of my like what she picked Lord to come clean to. if she had come said to confess to say Game Guy, it's likely that he would have freaked out. And if he told Roy, well, same thing. At the time, Roy and Diana were dating. And the fact that if he learned the fact that she was acting as a different person, that was shocking to say at least. But the most of that is that the fact every time when she was playing as herself, and then the next moment she was playing as Star, yeah, that was really most surprising because she was saying as herself that how much she loved Roy, and the next one she was playing as Star that Roy should break up with her, break up with Diana, and be with Star instead. And I was like, and I wasn't even aware of this confession to Lord until he actually posted that on Discord. I was like, what the? Are you kidding me? So it turns out she was the one who was responsible for, well, for most of that. I mean, but it was one thing when she was acting as Star that was really surprising. That makes no sense. I remember one particular time, and it was clear even today, even though this was like 2 to 3 years ago, at least from that. She was just sitting by the computer, and then suddenly Star showed up. And turned out she said that Diana was on the floor, passed out, wasn't breathing. I was like, what in the actual heck? Seriously, it's not only that, it's crazy. And only about a few minutes later, Diana came back as nothing had happened. Normally, normally with someone who is fall collapsed to the floor or the ground, not breathing, what is the first thing you do? Call 911 and also try to make sure that you give them CPR. But this didn't happen. So it's clear it's not really happened. Because if someone collapses on the floor like that or the ground is not a case, and then doesn't even give the first aid or even call for 911 or like an emergency, if that didn't happen, well, then like the heck, are you serious? If a person just suddenly collapses and isn't even breathing, and you don't eat, and then suddenly the next moment later they just show up at the computer to talk to us again, as nothing had happened. Because if you don't get air, and if you don't get oxygen within the next 5 to 6 minutes, you will be been declared as brain dead. Because the brain needs oxygen. After 6 minutes, you'd have been brain dead. So I understand, like, when Diana was acting herself, and then suddenly that she collapsed and no breathing and all, I was like, that is fishy. I mean, it's kind of understanding to say it to that. It's really unbelievable. I mean, it's crazy. But then eventually she complained about that she was starved the whole time, and apparently there was some sort of a dare between her and Stormy. And when we talked to Stormy, he denied or said that that didn't even happen. This was a this was supposed to be a dare to last for I think 2 to 3 months, but apparently it lasted for almost 6 months or 7 months or something. At least more than 6 months. Not even a year, but it was at least more than 6 months. I was crazy understanding that. I understand if this was some sort of a dare, but going at that length to pretend to be someone else. I mean, if there was some sort of part of it, it's like an act, like acting. Sure, that was something, but yeah, I was not sure exactly how to process that. And when I found out, I even asked Lord on the day when, shortly the day after that, he had been confessed to about this whole thing, this whole ordeal from Diana herself. She was maybe expecting that we would freak out or telling her to just that was not okay, that was not even accepted, and especially for one person at a time, Roy. Roy probably would even say that he would be so pissed at Diana, but he forgave her, and we all moved on from that. But has it something like that happened again? Not really. That was like only one time when it is when someone of our friends acting like this. I mean, for example, if a our late friend Cody, not Cody Lane, but Cody Darkhawk, if he acted Kimmy in the stream, acted as someone else, like just as a sort of a prank, just putting in a different name, and was muted for a bit, acting as someone else. I mean, okay, that's one thing because I had sometimes pretend to be someone else in the stream, like say, I pretend once to be Dashy, but at least that game got figured out that it wasn't even Dashy, it was actually me. And okay, so that happens. Man, that's just But again, we hadn't seen Diana in quite a long time actually. But the surprising is, shortly after that, about a year ago or so, she vanished. We wondered all the time what happened to her. I mean, even her channel was gone. We don't even have any of her social media on Facebook or anything. Her Discord account is still there, but no matter how many times we try to talk to her, send a message, it's no getting a reply. So either she hasn't even used her Discord ever since, maybe like she has forgotten the password or simply just stopped using it. Sometimes people just don't want to be friends with anyone anymore and just leaves, vanish without a trace. So that happens. Yeah, and I'm not saying I'm not saying anything about it at all. And especially when Cody was just he was just normal acting as friends. We loved to tease him about Rarity and some other MLP characters, but mostly Rarity. But then, only about a week before it all happened, he was just like himself. He was just his normal self. And then 1 week later, nothing. We hadn't even heard from him in over a week. But then, just one simple day, I just went on Discord and I was in the server at the time where even Cody Malachite was in, but I'm not part of the server anymore since I left it a while back. But I noticed about this notification. I was usually, even though I was part of the server, but I never even took part of it. So I went in and I did notice people talking about Cody. I was like, okay, because I knew for the time he was in hospital since at least a couple months before then, after he was hit by the truck. And as far as I remember, the driver was found and arrested, I think. I don't think it is what happened, but um, then he ended up in hospital and he was paralyzed on this half of the body and he was trying to make his he was recovering from his injury. He was learning how to be able to walk again after that accident. But then it all happened just fast. I was on Discord when I was just logged in on Discord, saw the server, and some of his other friends who had known him much longer talked about it. Talked about Cody or something that happened. I wasn't sure exactly what it was that happened. If something about something that someone he said about him or he said something. But it turned out he had passed away. And I was like, what the hell? Excuse my French, but yeah, I was in deep shock to learn. Some of my friends had just suddenly died, and we weren't even aware of that. At least the only two of my friends who knew about it. There was me and Malachite. Since we were part of the same server on Discord, I was shocked. So I scrolled back up in the messages to learn more details exactly what happened. At the time, there was some speculations or there was some different outcome of what happened. I mean, only a couple of months prior to this, he was in a car accident when he was on the sidewalk. He was struck by a car or a truck, whatever it was, and then he in the hospital and then later passed. I was in deep shock. Our goofy friend suddenly gone, and he was even not that old. He was still in his 20s. First, some people said that it was something else, but it turned out there was someone that he had smoked himself to death. We knew for a fact he was smoking and vaping. I mean, okay, people can die from smoking even if there was nothing else. It happens. But this case, not at all. Later turns out that he died from an infection. I was in shock because I know for a fact infection can sometimes go slowly. Sometimes they can even go so fast before any treatment can even be put in. And that is true, my friends. It is. And from what I understand, it went fast. And he didn't make it. And I was really much surprised and in shock. I couldn't even believe it. At first, I thought that this. I first thought maybe there was some sort of maybe some misunderstanding or something else, or someone misunderstood what was actually happened. I mean, this is not the first time that someone actually found out someone supposed to be dead. Turns out the person was still much alive. There was just only some missing in communication between some like said doctor or something. Like I have heard some cases of people supposed to have died and they were still in the hospital when they passed away, but later wakes up in the morgue. And turns out they were, well, like in one case, I believe it was in the show called The Rookie, or was it 911? I believe it was the 911 show. There was this man who supposed to be dead. I mean, and then when he was in the morgue, when a coroner was about to cut him open to see the cause of death, but as the man was about to do it, suddenly the man woke up. The man wasn't even dead at all. He was alive the whole time, but his pulse was so low that it would even recognize not by a monitor or anything. This man was pretty much alive, and even as the man was about to being cut open by the coroner at the hospital, but he was much alive. And when the coroner saw this man reacting much awake up, he fainted and cut himself with a machine on his arm. Luckily, it was even not even anywhere near one of those main blood vessels like the ones that you have in in the neck, because if that happened, he would have been bled out fast. So the man woke up. He actually put this some sort of bandage or scarf or something around the arm, so tie it up, so to lower the blood flow in the arm so they wouldn't even bleed out. And the man explained that he has this type of rare case of, okay, I would say rare, but it's this very different variant case of uh, kind of like a sleepwalking or something that's, and he do have, and apparently this was not the first time or not the second time, but for I remember this man happened to was supposed to be declared dead 4 times, but he was alive the whole time. But just his pulse, it was so low. Not even the blood pressure machine, or even those that keeps your record of the heart monitor could even register any of the pulse. I mean, I was like, that is pretty scary. Can you even imagine you are awake, you are fully aware, and you're like it's like you're being paralyzed, sleep paralysis, just laying there, fully aware, you can only see from your eyes, and then and feeling the machine cutting into your chest or your arms or something. Yeah, that's a pretty freaky. Oh man. But speaking of something pretty weird, urban legends. Now, urban legends is that depends on from which country you're living in. I mean, for example, U.S. has 50 states and also uh, territories like Guam, uh, Puerto Rico, and others may have their own versions of urban legends or something like that. And in the US, there's one very much notorious, the Bunny Man. I'm pretty sure that most Americans have heard about this case of the Bunny Man. And but itself, urban legends, some urban legends that we had thought just to be that urban legends turned out to be real. Like, as in many people think, alligators or crocodiles in the sewers in New York are just that, an urban legend. I meant to say 50-50 because there have been cases of people actually found alligators in the sewers in New York. There's actually one story that was actually in the newspapers in New York. This was back in the early 1900s, like back in the early 20th century. But exact year, I don't remember precise, but it was in like in early 1900s. A group of teenagers in the winter was shoveling some snow on the street because this was way before this was long before most of the homes had electricity. Like I said, this was in the beginning of the 20th century. They were just removing snow on the street, and they found when they opened one of those uh, sewer locks, they thought, and when they looked down, they estimated to see at least a 10 to 15 feet long alligator in the sewer. And they were like, what? This is unbelievable. This wasn't even in the spring or in the summer or even the autumn. This was middle of the winter. And as we all know, alligators, like crocodiles, only survives in warm climates like tropical or subtropical, like in Florida or not, and in Africa. But they actually saw this huge alligator. They brought it up and they killed it by shovels and baseball bats. I mean, even though this was even the still some this people saying this is an old urban legend. Some urban legends actually can be real, depending on from well, depend on like sources, and of course locations where this urban legend is said to be is from. Like New York has its alligators in its sewers, and we have the Maryland with the Bunny Man, but there's also another thing. I don't know how many Americans are familiar with this particular urban legend, melon heads. This is actually a common. This is actually an urban legend that has not only impressed it is just one state, but in three different states: Ohio, Connecticut, and Michigan. And this is the most surprising is, even though all of them have the very basic description of how those creatures or individual, the melonheads look like, but some of the origin stories in each of three states has a different twist. But there's one common ground in all those three in this urban legend in each of those states has. And that is one figure. There is supposed to be one figure that has this common in all three of them. And that is the name of Dr. Crow or Dr. Crowe. That depends on different spelling or something. But in this case, in some of the version of how this the melonheads are as an urban legend is that they were either children was placed in some sort of mental asylum where they were or mental institution where they were put to perform some experiments, and as the name of them called melon heads is because their heads was swollen like melon, like watermelons. No joke. There are in fact pictures of the watermelons as an I mean, if you want to read more about the melon heads, just type that on Google and search for melon heads. You will find pictures, and I just warn you right now, it's a bit of grotesque how to say they look like. I mean, it's if yeah, it's pretty nasty. But the fact is, in this mental institution where they're supposed to be in, they were went through some pretty horrifying experiments by one particular doctor, and it's said to believe that they were suffering from this type of condition. I don't remember exactly what it was called. Let's see here. Melon heads. Here we go. Let's see. Melon heads. They were suffering from hydrocephalus. Syphilis. This is sort of a condition where it makes your head swollen, filled with water or something like that. Yeah, in one of the cases, one of like in the Michigan version, there were this one story that were living in this asylum near a mansion. The story began that they were enduring a physical and emotional abuse. They became feral, and they were released in the forest around in this uh, asylum. But according to the county where they're supposed, that county's Allegan County Historical Society asserts that the asylum never existed, although there was one point a prison in the area. But this was like that one had the story of being part of the Michigan folklore for decades. And in fact, that the some other version of the legend says that they were once lived in the mansion themselves and retreated in a system of caverns or caves, or even an abandoned zoo. Some other version says that they were children despised escape to kill the doctor that abused them. So, and eventually, well, and that was at least one of them. But then Ohio says there's another very similar. They were under watch of a mysterious figure known as Dr. Crow, or also known as Dr. Melonhead in some cases, that he performed unusual experiments. They developed this large, hairless heads and malformed bodies. Some of them were even suffering. They were already suffering from hydrocephalus, syphilis, and then he injected them with more fluid in their brains. According to legend, that they killed him, burned the orphanage, and retreated in the forest and started supposedly feed on babies. According to the legend, another thing that they have been also been very popularized and also being turned into a movie, and but then also in the Connecticut, that is the different. That is several variations of the legend can be found throughout the different counties. Many tales can be found in some of the communities, and the primarily version of this myth is that they've been this asylum for criminal insane that burned down in the fall of 1960, which resulted many of the staff and the most of the patients, but only like 10 or 20 inmates unaccounted for supposedly survived and managed to escape in the forest, and resulted to cannibalism, meaning that we've been cannibals in order to survive the harsh winter in the region, and went to start to doing inbreeding, and which caused them the hydrocephalus, their heads swelling up. Yeah, so many of those urban legends, yeah, cannibals, and of course, this is only a myth, urban legend. But there are so many others out there, so many urban legends that pretty shocking. Some are really depend on where you are. Like the urban legend of the Bunny Man from Maryland, also pretty terrifying. There were actually a man dressed as a supposed as a bunny man hunting people with pickaxe or even or even a regular axe or even a knife. There were actually a few cases of that suppose a man dressed like a bunny man hunting people in the tunnel. He didn't kill anyone though, but only harmed the vehicles and such. And I mean, so some of the legends may actually be, well, just be urban legends, but they weren't even. But this bunny man, this was one who dressed as one. He took an advantage. He took advantage of this legend and dressed as the bunny man. He wasn't the one who started the bunny man urban legend in the first place. The story had been around for at least a while longer before that happened. So this man dressed as a bunny man and attacked people in the vehicles with an axe or pickaxe, or no matter what it was, or a knife in some cases. And that is terrifying. And some urban legends are just that, urban legends. But some urban legends have been proven to be complete real. It is true. But there are some urban legends that not include like say the bunny man, but also include some hauntings. There are so many urban legends just throughout in the states that there are countless of those. There is at least so many, so many of them, and I have only heard at least perhaps a handful of different urban legends from the U.S. Then you may ask, do I know of any other urban legends from different countries, like say UK, Germany, Japan? Well, I do know at least a few from different countries, and there is at least one, and from Japan. This one, I can't pronounce the actual name for this urban legend from Japan, but it's been translated to the 8 foot tall woman. This particular 8 foot tall woman from Japan's as an urban legend is the most terrifying one because this mostly affected children or preteens or something. Then, here's the thing. There was at least one story of a young woman mentioned this when this happened when she was just a child, when she was around, say, maybe, I think around 7 or 10 years old. She was actually not living in Japan, but she went to see her grandparents one summer. And one day, when she was in the backyard, the backyard hedge was at least 8 feet tall. So then she saw this hat moving on the other end of the top of the hedge. Wait a minute, a normal straw hat, just almost at the same height as the hedge. People probably thinking, wait, that's just someone who is holding a pole or something, or a stick under beneath, moving it. I mean, that is would have been the most common uh, interpretation. But then this woman, when she says as a girl, saw this figure, a woman standing. There was one small gap in the hedge. She saw this tall, pale woman, and this woman said, "Boom, boom, 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 boom," and this sound. She was even scared. And then a woman walked off. The girl went inside her grandparents. They, she was talking to them. Hey, Brona Dreamer, what's up? Yeah, so she was just talking to her grandparents, and they at first didn't even pay much attention. But what happened when she said boom 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 boom, her grandparents' eyes went wide, like they went pale, ghostly pale. Her grandmother grabbed the shoulder of the girl and really much started to interrogate her. When did she saw this woman? Did she see her? Did she say something? Did she do something? Excuse me. What do you want? Huh? Yeah, excuse me, it's my cat just start talking. um, while the grandmother was doing this, the grandfather was on the phone with someone, and later he left. And he came back with a short older lady. Yeah, yeah. Be quiet, please. And this older lady was in some sort of working in some type of uh, like a temple or a shrine. She was like a priestess, some I think it is. And in fact, she she told the girl to sit in a room. They put some papers along the wall with some strange runes or some symbols. And in each corner of the room, they placed 4 bowls with rice. And she was told not to leave the room, not until sunset. And if she needed to use the restroom, they put a bucket in the room. And no, people, this was not a form of abuse. This is part of an old in Japanese urban legend, just so you know. So what happened? They told her not to leave the room, no matter what happens, even if she hears the voices of someone she knows, like her grandparents. And throughout the night, nothing happened. But then, I believe it was around, say, I think it was 4 or 5 in the morning, she heard this boom, 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 boom sound outside. And then later she heard her grandfather asking if she wanted to come out to use the restroom. She was about to open a door. Well, there's more like a slide door, since those are more common in Japanese homes. But as she was about to do it, she noticed something. She turned around in the room where she was placed in, as when she was as in the early evening when they had placed those 4 bowls with rice in. But what they heard is shocking and horrifying. The rice had turned black, completely black as a night. That will only happen if this evil spirit happened. Because earlier, before she was placed in the room, this old priestess informed her that this 8 foot tall woman was actually a spirit. Years earlier, they had placed that some monks had forced her stay in an old temple that was in ruins, and they placed 4 figures in each corner that would represent the natural compass, like north, west, east, or south, and that was maintained there to stay there. But something had happened. If one of the stone statues breaks, the spirit is free to roam again. And apparently, according to the story of what happened, that if someone sees a spirit, even just only for a moment, the next day the spirit will have kidnapped or taken the child or even perhaps even adult and never be seen again. So in the story, the very next day, she was rushed into this vehicle, like this van, and there were some people there, some men. They drove her to the airport. But what I heard that this was apparently people has been familiar with this entity, but they couldn't see it because as it was driving, something hit the van from the side, almost tried to push it out of the street, off the road. But no one could even see because there was you'd be thinking there was a car behind them that or something. But no, there's no other vehicle on the road at the time. This was like early in the morning, just as the sun was about to rise in the sky. But there was only one thing. There was this, in fact, this 8 foot tall woman attacking the car or this van. And that fact, the girl was the only one who could see it. No other tried. Even if the other men in the car or in the van wanted to see it, they couldn't. And then years later, she was told to never, under no circumstances, to return to Japan ever. And then years later, her grandfather passed away, even though she wanted to go to the funeral, but he put instructions in his will not to allow her to join. And then years later, her grandmother's health was starting to decline, and it has been years, she said to her grandmother. And then she wanted to go there herself to see her before it was her time to pass. And then the grandmother actually allowed it. But then, boom, 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 on the other end. And that was the end of the story from what I read. The girl never, I would have been presumed that this girl never actually went back to Japan, even as a young adult, because the sound of the woman back then and years later, boom, boom, sound, she realized the one who was talking when she was supposed talking to her grandmother wasn't even her grandmother, was in fact the 8 foot tall woman pretending to be her grandmother. So I assume that she never did. And that is the story of how that happened. And many stories all around the world have supernatural urban legends, including my own country. There's actually one urban legend in Stockholm, which is Sweden's capital city. This is called the Silver Arrow, not an actual arrow, but a bullet train. This is about a train. The cart and locomotive was the driving part of it, all of it in silver color. But this train actually existed. It did. But according to the urban legend of the Silver Arrow, is that they pass through an abandoned, unfinished train station, stops there, and let people off. People who were supposed to be dead. But I don't know if that is true. And this unfinished station is real. The station was actually never complete. It's still there. And the supposed train never was, I believe it was continued to be used for at least several years until it was discontinued, and I think it was scrapped, but I'm not sure. But in Sweden, and there are some perhaps even other urban legends that I may not even be familiar with. You may be asking, wait, if you're living there, how can you not even be aware of your own urban legend stories? I mean, first of all, do you even, if since you, for example, like say, if you live in US and you lived in one of the states and you have lived there, born and raised in that state your entire life, do you have, and if I ask you, do you know, know even like say one or two, or do you know any other, do you know about any urban legends in your own state? And the person were like, not really, no. Exact my point. Despite if I have been living in Sweden my entire life, born and raised, I may be familiar with some urban legends, sure, but some of the urban legends that I actually may have forgotten about. In fact, I made a quiz based on American urban legends, and I've been thinking of doing one for from different countries like Japan, Sweden, UK. But the fact is, even if I wanted to do something about Swedish urban legends as a quiz, I only know for this only about one urban legend. But the fact is, even though that might be some urban legends that I never may have never heard of, but they actually might be much more. Because here's the thing though, some urban legends that may actually be from parts of Sweden may actually be found on internet. That is the thing. If it might be some urban legends from say from Stockholm, but that's the fact that no one posted that information on the internet. If that I can't find, if I only heard about this urban legend and I decide, wait, that's something new, that was interesting. And if I would look into it, if I use Wikipedia, no information at all. So I use Google, searching for it, and I may find nothing. Even now these days you have internet, there's tons of information about anything. Sometimes when you find something you want to read more into, sometimes it doesn't even exist online. But it doesn't even mean that this urban legend doesn't exist. It might actually be an urban legend, but information of that sometimes can be quite limited. That will depend on if you find it. It can be be depending on where you search. You can perhaps even if you go to the local library, that also doesn't guarantee that won't be find any mention of these urban legends. Even where you live, there might be some local urban legends. Then again, even local urban legends may not always be being placed online to be read. And then again, even if you go to the local libraries to read more about these local urban legends, that again may not even have any books unless you go to the newspaper section to read old newspapers. In my case, the library where I live, we have this newspaper section, in a basement, I think, where you can actually read some old newspapers that goes more than 100 years back. But okay, even if you managed to find old newspapers for that goes back, say, back to 1860s, but if you only heard about this reference of this urban legend to exist, even if you may only heard like say to almost roughly to almost like say this story was told by the 100 years ago, but not even given precise like exact year, month, or perhaps even exact where this is supposed to be mentioned. So going to the old library in the basement, looking for old newspapers, and even if you knew precise year, but not exact month of when this is supposed to be happening. So going for an old newspapers can take quite a while. But if you don't know the say precise year, only but say this was around in early 1860s, or this was supposed to be happening in the early 1900s. When someone say early 1900s, an example, early, like it is like exact 1900, 1901, 1902, perhaps even as 1905. If no one doesn't give precise year, so if you have to go through the newspapers from even from the start of 1900 all the way down say to 1912, that is like 12 years of newspapers, like hundreds you have to go through for even to find the traces of that mention of one specific urban legend. If you don't have that information, precise years that happened, it will take a quite a research. But many people that's really dedicated to urban legends or mysteries, they do look into that. They are so hardcore dedicators to do that. But that's also the thing is, some of this urban legend can only be spread by word or orally tradition, meaning they can only be told by word of mouth. A story that we pass down from one person to another without being written down. If someone's heard this story and never write it down, how will you even be able to find the information more about it? And especially if there was if this was like say happened say a story that you heard about an urban legend happened say 50 years ago or perhaps even 80 years ago. And the fact is, if this story was never published nowhere, not in a local library, books, newspapers, nothing, only about some people that are supposed to be seeing this happen and only spread it by word of mouth. So, and if you had like, I want to learn more about this urban legend, but there are nothing online, not in the library, and especially if your family has only say lived in this small town for say 10 to, for the past 20 years, and there's that you never even heard of it. You were not even born there. You're not even raised in this city, in this small town. So how would you even have known about it? And if you ask your friends if they know about it, they probably like, not really much. I only heard about it. I don't know much about it. And if they ask their grandparents, their parents, there's some who also been born and raised in this small town, they probably know some of the details, but they probably wouldn't have to go for ask for like say other people who from the same generation who have also lived in this small town in their entire life. But that's the problem. The fact that even if you do go ask around in older generations about this specific event or urban legend, some people may have slowly forgot about some details, others are having some details, and others have then other details that doesn't even match. That is the thing about it. Some urban legends that may actually never been written down. I mean, who knows how many urban legends there is or there have been, but we may never have heard of. Like say Jersey Devil. The Jersey Devil was a story about an urban legend of this monster started back in 1735 in New Jersey. People start calling it as the Leeds Devil after Mother Leeds, but then it was known as New Jersey Devil. And that is something is much others. I mean, how many urban legends do exist in one state alone? Even if you've been born and raised, say, for example, like say, for you, Cody, you live in Washington State, and you live there, and you only lived most of their entire life, and you only heard, say, if I ask you if you know some of the urban legends, you may only say mention perhaps only a few of those. And if you look into more, you'd probably be surprised if it might not even be just 10 urban legends, not only local, but also, say, perhaps hundreds. Okay, there is one urban legend that I have heard of. Cody, have you ever heard of, um, man, come on, where are you? There is one, come on, where are you? Where are you? There is this one, not the Bunny Man, not that one. Let's go see, where are you? Man, where are you? I know for a fact that I did see this. Let's go see here. Ah, here it is. Seven Gates of Hell. Have you ever heard that one? I'm always surprised. I'm not surprised to be even heard. It's a modern urban legend that is in Pennsylvania. There are two versions of this one. It's one involved is burned in insane asylum, where another eccentric doctor. They are both agree there are seven gates in the wooden area of this particular small town or township in Pennsylvania that anyone pass through the all seven goes right to hell. The location in question never housed of an institution, while the doctor of the legend only constructed one gate to keep out trespassers. So there are so many different versions of the legends out there, like the sewer gates or sightings of Elvis Presley out there. Say, okay, as the urban legend, poison candy for Halloween. Also, that's like the seven deadly sins. Maybe that's maybe as a reference to that. I'm not sure. Let's go see. Well, there's the black-eyed children. Let's go see here. Of course, it's let's go see here. There's another. Let's go see. Not that one. Let's go see. There was one particular I heard of. Let's go see here. Where are you? And Robert. Here we go. There is one urban legend that's called Aurora. It has nothing to do with the Aurora Borealis. This is actually a rumor of American reconnaissance aircraft from the mid 1980s. There is no such evidence that this have been built or been flying. The U.S. government has consistently denied such aircraft that have been, well, ever been built. The Aviation and Space reference site aerospaceweb.org concluded the evidence of the supporting this is just that pure speculations. Even though there are so many evidence or some supposed opinion, and when it comes to some urban legends, excuse me, there was one other. Let's see here. No, that one. Or let's see, not that one. No, phantom social workers. Not that one either. Man, let's see. Bermuda. Nope. No. There are so many different urban legends. You have no idea. I mean, like seriously, you have no idea uh how many. Oh, okay. I'm not sure if you heard about this one. This is actually it's an urban legend supposed to be happening in Canada back in the early 1930s. In 1930, a newsman in Manitoba reported a small Inuit village right off the lake. Okay, Agni Kuni. The village had always been welcome to fur trade trappers who passed through occasionally. But then, however, in 1930, Joe LaBelle, a fur trapper well known in the village, found all the villagers had gone. He found unfinished shirts that still needed needles in them, food hanging over fire pits. Therefore, concluded the villagers had left suddenly. Even to find more disturbing, he found 7 sled dogs dead from starvation, and a grave had been dug up. LaBelle knew the animal could not have been responsible for it because the stone circling the grave was undisturbed. He reported this to the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, or the Riding Police, as some people call it. The story first was mentioned in Danville B, Virginia. And even though this article reported in Canada, it later turns out this has been just been an urban legend. Because there are so many urban legends out there that we never even think that's actually real. But how many of the urban legends that we heard of may actually be based on actual event? There are some urban legends out there that of an entire community gone, poof. The one from Canada is literally even a bit they're based on. Okay, I wouldn't even say based on, but there is one that has literally happened in real life. The Roanoke Colony. The Roanoke Colony is one of the earliest English colonies in America. Predates Jamestown colonies. Predates the 13 colonies of the era. Since Jamestown was established in the early 1600s, Roanoke was established back in 1585, but the first attempt failed. But only about some time later, they actually retried again. And the second time list seems to be working, but then they were running low on supplies. The colony had around 110 or 115 people total. But then they told the governor that they needed more supplies, so he took the ship and went back to England, and he said that he would be back in 3 months. But he was back 3 years later, not by choice, because when he returned, England was brought in another war against Spain. I think it was and that every single ship that was available was forced to be served in the Armada. And after 3 years, he came back with some more people and supplies to find the colony empty. It's like there was no signs of battles, no graves, no sign. I mean, like I said, there was no signs of any conflict at all. No battle damages. No, the huts or the houses was not even burned. No bodies, nowhere. It's like the entire colony, poof, vanished. There was only one thing. There was this post with one word, Croatoa. There was actually this island not far from Roanoke, what is inhabited a Native American tribe called the Croatoan. So he also told the colonists to carve in on a post if something would happen. But the fact is, was trying to reach the island where the word describing on the post. But due to the fact of a hurricane prevented him, he never tried a second try. So ever since then, the stories of this urban legend, well, I'll say an urban legend, but this is real story. And even to this day, no one knows exactly what happened to the colony. To many people's eyes, this was the second time of a second try of a British colony in America that failed, where all the 110 people vanished. No trace. There was no signs of any battles or anything. Sure, the colonists may have some experience of some hostile Native American tribes in the area, but there were also other tribes also in the area were on friendly terms with the colonists, meaning they were friendly against each other, they worked together. But ever since then, people have speculated that they had moved inwards from into mainland. But the fact is, even the were in the area where they're supposed to move to, there have been a lot of excavations, uh, using lidars, which is basically lasers on the ground, but no trace of any of the supposed new colony being established there. People may be asking, is this Roanoke colony even real? Like the colony itself isn't like an urban legend? Actually, it's not urban legend, it's real. Because parts of it actually been found. Like again, a big blacksmith workshop had been found. And tons of artifacts that dates back to either back to late 16th century, which was around 1500s. But not only British, but also German origin. Well, it is like plates, clay pipes, and everything. Even musket, even bullets have been found. So it is clear there were at least settlers that lived on the island at the end of the 1500s. But this was in North Carolina, as this island is located. And with this day, no one has no freaking idea what happened to the colonists. There were stories of people of a missionary that went to the island of Croatoa in the early 1600s and saw this Native American tribe members with blonde hairs. They were speaking a mix of Welsh, which is a British language, and even with some of the colonists or some of the Native American tribe members even had either the first name or the last name, some of the matches as some of the colonists. And this still today claim they are the direct descendants of the colonists. But the fact is, we can't prove it. We can't even prove that to this day, even though we were able to track down. But first, in order to prove it, you would need either remains of those people that vanished on the island, or like if you were to say a piece of bone, so they can extract the DNA from the bone and take a blood sample from those Native Americans and see if their DNA match. Even if there are tiniest fragments left, I mean, even if they're more than 600, if they're more than a few hundred years, there should still be enough DNA to match of a person that's long gone. But since the Roanoke Island colonists vanished, and even this Native American tribe claims they are descendants of that colony, without without any actual remains from the colonists, it's impossible to tell if they are the fact colonists. But they may, whoa, back up. What about the people back in England? I mean, since this was supposed to be a British colony, sure, that may be true. But you have to remember, this was back in the 1580s. And the fact is, a lot of families that moved to the Roanoke colony may also been older members of the family that was still around. Some of the people who moved over to Roanoke could still have some families back in England. You may be thinking, if they still have some relatives back in England, their bloodline should have continued. Well, that's the thing, yes. But you should also remember that this was back in at the end of the 16th century. And and you should know that many of the living expectancy life the life expectancy or the lifespan of people at the time wasn't even that long. Some of the people some of the colonists who have could have still have some family members still back in England. Some of them could actually continue the family bloodline for at least a few more generations until that bloodline went extinct. Some of the families may actually have changed locations. Some of the families who lived, some of the relatives that still lives or lived in England could have eventually have moved away from that town where their families came from. They kind of moved to a different part of England. They kind of perhaps moved to Scotland or even I don't know Ireland or perhaps even into main Europe. But also some of the families could even have their family bloodline could have gone extinct, not by just by name, but also biologically extinct. It happens. So even if we do manage to find this tribe, chosen them to person to prove this claim, you may have to figure out, at least want to know that without the actual remains of those ancestors they claim to be from the claim to be the colonists, without their remains, we can't prove from any form of connection from that. But if we could prove that, what to find living descendants of the family, long distant relatives, that may still prove it, but that is a far fetched idea. It may not even prove at all. So this entire case of Roanoke Island colonists' disappearance, in my opinion, permanent unsolved. You have to remember, it has been more than there have been more a few hundred years. So we may never know if the colonists left the island. And you may have to remember, this was an island, and there was no other settlements in the area of the mainland at the time. And the only big ship was in England, just before they vanished. They could have built some other boats, sure, but there were no signs of that. No signs of battles, no signs of disease, anything. So no one knows. So, in my opinion, the Roanoke colonies would never be found and the mystery will never be solved. I mean, we have for hundreds of years now tried to solve this mystery, but we have not been able to do that. But at least we have proved the colony did exist. But what happened to the colonists, no one knows. And unfortunately, we will never know. Which is a frustrating. I mean, considering there might still be some relatives to those colonies still today, and they may want to know what happened to their ancestors or their long distant relatives who went to the New World hoping for a new place to live. But people should know this. This was even back in early 1500s, late 1500s, around 1580s or 1590s. Back then, this was less than 100 years after the New World was discovered by accident. So, this should know people who lived in the 1500s moved to a whole new place, new land, new idea. I mean, they went to an island of Roanoke and they suffered maybe from the harsh winters and such, but without any actual knowledge of the plant life. What plants there could be that was able to eat, or what plants was poisonous, and in more other ways, what animals that is dangerous. Because here's just one of the things. UK lacks on large predatory animals like bears, wolves. They have been extinct in the UK for hundreds of years. Meanwhile, US, or as in North America, has several breeds of bears: grizzly, black bear, brown bear, Kodiak bear, and even polar bears in the very much up north of Canada. But still, they have that. They have wolves, wolverines, mountain lions, and of course, snakes. So people who lived in the late 1500s when they established the Roanoke colony, it's possible that they could have definitely expecting that living in this small island in a new environment with no knowledge of any of the local native animal species there is and what plants that they've been able to eat. Even it might be plants similar back in England. But those plants in the US and or in North America and in England may look similar, but be two different breeds of plants. Those back in Europe or less in England may be edible, but those in North America could be poisonous. So another thing is, since US or North America has many different breeds of bears and wolves, mountain lions, meanwhile people who lived in England have never experienced bears, wolves, since they have been extinct there for hundreds of years. And living in a land, arriving, if I remember, the second try of the established colony of Roanoke was in the late, by end of the year, like near the end of the summer. So try to establish a land to grow food, but also at the same time to build homes. And even to this day, no one knows exactly what happened to the colony. No one knows. And they will never know, since without any actual proof, there were like no documentations, like no books, only one word carved in a wooden post, Croatoan. But there was this island in the area that was basically known as the Croatoa, and the tribe known as Croatoan. No one, most people believe that the colonists somehow abandoned the colony and moved to Croatoa, but without any actual proof. And even though there are some tribes there claim to be the direct descendants of the colonists, but we can't even prove that because without any actual remains of the colonists, we can't even prove it. If you like, try to solve the say, oh yeah, I'm the descendant of say William Shakespeare, but that is also impossible because a William Shakespeare didn't even have any kids of his own. He died childless. So it is impossible to say much of that. I'm just saying. Oh man. Ooh. Talk about something else though. Cody, have you seen? I don't know. Has-Been Hotel? Hell of a Boss? Oh, man, your miss also really good. Even though it's a lot of blood and a lot of swear words in or curse words in the series. But yeah. There's actually the started releasing the second season of Has-Been Hotel on Prime Video, I believe, or Prime. I don't have Prime, but I've seen all those current episodes so far, and online it is for free. So yeah. Oh, you mean Luna, Blitz's adopted daughter? Yeah. I would not be surprised if Luna. I mean, I would be surprised um if Luna is what considers the sex icon for the entire that franchise, other than for Charlie, Moon and Morningstar. Hasbro is still producing content for G5, including seasons 2 and 3 of Telltale series. What the hell? Are you serious? Are you serious? I mean, are you serious that Hasbro is still? Well, I mean, if you search for as Google that and there's a AI respond, yeah, you should take this not don't take it as quite serious. That could actually be a false. I'm not saying rumor, but it could be a false statement or a response back that. So yeah, I mean, just saying. I just don't want to give you high hope on this. Just I don't want to burst your bubble, but just let you know that this could actually just be fake. That I mean, now that Google are using AI in the search bar, if you ask a question, it's definite. I mean, even ChatGPT can make some mistakes in some of the response or questions you ask for. It's so. I mean, it's not. I mean, this might be 50-50. This might actually even be real that Hasbro is still producing content for Telltale Season 2 and 3. I mean, considering from a small fact, I've seen this one YouTuber who actually posts unfinished episodes from Telltale series on their channel. And so, even if the Hasbro has tons of stories as episodes that were still in the development, and at a small fact, it has been over a year since G5 ended. Wouldn't it be quite strange if Hasbro decides to put up the uploading the rest of the remaining special episodes and the rest of the episodes that they've been supposed to be working. Because, frankly speaking, it then shouldn't take a year to have those episodes to be made. I mean, it doesn't take a year to make a 22 episode, minute long episode at all. Even if they were CGI or hand drawn or anything, it doesn't take a freaking year. Okay, for a fact is, if this since the previous seasons had say like the first season, okay, if it was a even though only 5 minutes, the most of the story episodes are on Telltale. So if they would take them a year to just make one single episode, and since the first season was about 26 episodes, so that would make one episode 5 minutes long for each year for next upcoming years. So like that would be like say if season 2 would have been 26 episodes and season 3 would have been 26 episodes. That means one episode per year. So 26 years for season 2, 26 years for season 3, plus those special episodes that's supposed to be for 20 plus minutes. I mean, if that were the case, I would like, dude, we have to wait over 40 years to see every single one. Nope. So, I mean, it doesn't even take this long. I mean, it didn't even take this long for the next. I mean, it doesn't even take over a year to make several episodes just because of this. I'm surprised if that's hadn't even happened yet. But so if this is real that they are still producing episodes, they should have mentioned it, like in an update or something or some way, on like Equestria Daily. I mean, if Hasbro's still producing Telltale season 2 and 3, they should have mentioned it by now. Well, this should have been announced somewhere earlier. Yeah, so I have no idea. My next Q&A. Oh, not sure. Well, I was supposed planning to do it when I reached 9,500. Let's see how many subscribers I have currently. Oh, come on. So, this takes always some time before the computers. There's always something. Okay, here we go. Current, how many subscribers? Might not be that many, but at least not that far on from it. 9,319. So yeah, my next Q&A will be when I reach 9,500. There was supposed to be another Q&A when I a special one, like a couple between me and my girlfriend will be answered questions. Yeah, that one is unfortunately put on hold until next year. Since she was supposed to be in here early in October, but that didn't happen. That didn't happen. You know why? U.S. government shut down and it's still shut down. Oh man. Yeah. So I asked her just a couple of weeks, couple of days ago. She's like, when is that the one she thinks most realistically when she will be here for us to visit? She said probably like next year, if in her realistically opinion of her visit to see me. So yeah, so Five Artists is not coming over this year, even though she really wanted. And when would the next current U.S. government shutdown last or stop? Uh, beats me, dude. Beats me. I have no idea. Since wait a minute, when did it even happen? Let's see. When did U.S. government shutdown start? On um, it started in October 1st, so it had been over a month. I mean, that depends if it's still. Nope. It has been lasting for 39 days, and this is a new record since the previous one back in 2018 was 35 days. So this might actually last for longer. Who knows? Oh, get this. I also heard that a couple of days ago that people who was using food stamps in order to survive, millions of Americans using this, and Trump said that that will never be much affected. They were trying to increase that so people can be using it. But then later, he's like, nah, we're not going to do that. So millions of Americans who may actually be using food stamps in order to survive, they will be outraged. I mean, for once, people, why do you even elected this complete idiot as your leader? Oh man, that's gonna be sucks for you guys. And the very fact that you may have to be going through this for 4 years. I'm not surprised of that. I wouldn't be surprised if some US states actually declared themselves as leaving the union. If that happens, they're more likely to be in another, I don't know, civil war. Because even years ago, this was even before Trump's first term and the second one, that California actually first considered to leave US and establish as its own country. Itself, I mean, if that happened, it wouldn't be much a problem. Since they have millions of people and they have several large airports, harbors, so they can still do business. But it was still taking not over a year because a every single U.S. military bases that has staff would have been shut down, and all the personnel like Air Force, Army, Marines, you name it, all those staff would have been transferred back to other states. And that also means that the California would have to make a new constitution, new laws, new currency. And that itself, they will take a couple of years before that happens. I mean, it's not like this is not the first time that US had its own independent state that was as an independent nation. I can give you one example. Texas. Before Texas was even part of the US, it was belonged to Mexico. But they broke apart, declared themselves as independent. And they were known as the Republic of Texas for at least a few years until they joined the Union. And then who can forget the American Civil War? Several states broke apart from the Union and formed Confederate. They they were also later joined back in Union, but not right after. I think it took like 5 years before they were able to join back in the main Union again. So yeah, I'm just saying it's man, it's just yeah. I mean, another thing is like say Hawaii. when before Hawaii was actually been as a union state of America, it was actually its own country, this own kingdom. But U.S. government decided to, hey, we want to annex those islands and declare those as American territory. So they did. They overthrew the Hawaiian royal family and took over the island. And by end of the 1959, I think, when they declared as a union state. So yeah, U.S. government can be quite rough and brutal in such things. Like, oh, who can forget the Indian Removal Act of the 1800s? And yes, you heard me right. The US government, they made that as an actual law. They moved not a few hundred, not only a few thousands, but it was like, I think, tens of thousands of Native Americans from Tennessee and others from the land which they had lived for hundreds, perhaps even thousands of years. Why did they do that? Well, it turned out that the land itself was perfect for growing cotton, but since the land was lit and occupied by the Native Americans, and the white man didn't want to share land with the Native Americans, so they decided to have them removed legally. So they made this a law. Andrew Jackson, the president, actually made this a perfect legal by a new law to have the U.S. military to literally forcing the Native Americans away from the land which they had lived for so much long time, so they can use the land for themselves to grow cotton. But the fact is, there was even one Native American tribe leader who actually went to Supreme Court to have this fought against. It's surprising, he actually did win. He won the surprise in the Supreme Court against the US government. And he even had several lawyers and other high ranking officials in the government and others that literally helped him. But despite the fact that the Native Americans, that especially this tribe leader, this tribe chief, fought a Supreme Court and won everything. But the US government, they didn't even care. They just outraged, didn't even care. So they forced tens of thousands of different tribes from their homes, which had their land, where they had lived for hundreds of years. Move them across the country to Native American or Indian reservations where they had lived ever since. But during this time of this move, the US soldiers, they moved the people as they were cattle. And throughout this journey, large number of troop members of each of those tribes died during this journey. They were moved like cattle. And it was like a few hundred people, not like a few hundred, like a few thousands of people died. And this event is known as Trail of Tears. And it's not a joke, people. Even though you were supposed to be, even though the fact this tribal leader of this particular Native American tribe did went to Supreme Court to fight against this law and did win. But despite that, the US president and the military decide, screw it, we want the land anyways, and we go against the Supreme Court and move these people away so we can take the land. I mean, that is absolute bullshit. They forced the people away from the land which they had lived on for so many years, for such a long time. It's outraged. I'm surprised that many of the Native Americans' descendants today are still outraged. And I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if some of the descendants of those tribes had moved back to the area where their ancestors once lived as a like a huh, be Suze, you're right, American government, we are back and we are moving again. But I mean, if the government had asked the Native Americans of those tribes who were still living in the area at the time, if they could somehow make a deal, if they had worked out, like say they were since the U.S. government allowed to say if they could strike an agreement, the Native Americans could allow the U.S. or the government to use the land to grow the cotton, and that the Native Americans could work there, could actually be the ones who grows the plants, harvested cotton, and gave that to U.S. government in exchange for still be living on the land. They can be using the land, growing it for the government, the harvest of that, and as a to at the same time being paid for some of their work, even though it might not be a huge amount of pay salary, but at least some salary that they could be one harvest and gave the harvest to the US government and get some salary because in the same time the Native American tribes members could have been actually gave was given a work an actual salary so they can support not only themselves but also the families who in the area, and that also would give the US government their precious cotton in exchange, rather from doing that by forcing the Native Americans away from the land and take it from themselves. If the US government was so smart at that, different had a different approach. Ask the Native Americans for an exchange that they will use the land, but the Native Americans will be the one to harvest the cotton and get some salary, and this will be their actual work. And in exchange, they will give the cotton to the government in exchange. I mean, if the U.S. government back then in the 1800s did that for the Native Americans, that would have huge profit. But instead, even though the fact that the Native Americans went to court, win the case, but the U.S. government is like, nope, screw it, we moved those Native Americans anyways. I'm still surprised that happened. I'm in shock most when I find out about it. Man, that was harsh. Seriously, people. Anyways, that if that would happen again in a modern era, like say if that happened in 2025 or 2026, you will have U.S. government will have a huge problem. Especially if Trump to try to do that again in the modern time. Trump, you are on the thin ice if you try to move people away from land so that you can do whatever you want it. As an example, I mean that happened at least once back in the 1800s. So if it happened again in new, and I mean if it happened again now in modern era, boy, that would have been that would have been bad for them. So yeah, I still wish that G5 could continue for Hitch to be shipped with either Sunny or Sip. You know what? I mean, there actually are some shipping between Hitch with Sprout, his friend, and I'm surprised they actually support that. I mean, the fact that I have done several gay store, uh, same gender male characters shippings before in the past, like so, yeah. But you may be surprised. I actually seen some. I mean, true, true. But he had reformed himself afterwards. So yeah. But I have seen some shippings between Spike and Shining Armor, and of course with Discord and Big Mac and what was it else? Soren of all people, a lot of points. I mean, I mean that is people can make absolute shippings. You have no clue why, but I mean, might be some reasons to that, and but you have no idea how many shippings there are based on with Spike with some male characters. Wait, I mean, Spike in Shining Armor. Even some people say, no, that cannot work. They're family. True, but at the same time, they aren't even. They are pony and a dragon, and they are not the same species. And I mean, we don't even know if Twilight's family legally adopted Spike as their son. They never actually mentioned that. Only for the fact that Spike mentioned or Shining Armor said that he referred Spike as brother in one of the later episodes. But it doesn't even mean precise if we're literally saying as they were referring him as an actual brother, like adopted brother. And even Twilight has only said that he is her number one assistant, not brother, not once. So is it possible that they never even adopted him legally? Then again, who knows? I mean, there's a side of works much different to compare to ours. So, I mean, the ecclesial laws and rules much different from our own. So, who knows? Maybe that they in fact did adopt a Spike, but at the same time, who knows? But if Spike would end up being with a male character, like say Rumble, Body Match, or uh, any of their friends from school, I'd be like, go for it. I mean, as long as they're around the same age as Spike is, I have no problem. But considering that Spike is a baby, and if someone like him with Discord, well, that's a huge difference. He's a baby dragon, and he a 1,000-year-old Draconicus, the Draconicus. So yeah, that's would not be okay. Age difference, huge age difference. Well, I think it's time for me to end the stream here. It's nearly 2 hours, and none of my friends had even joined in, so I think it's time to end here. Yep, see you next time, Cody. See ya. Well then, people. And again, I am I'm not disappointed some of my friends was even able to join in, since I do know understand if my friends had some circumstances they were unable to join in, if there was some family obligations, if you had some chores, or if you were at home at the time. I do understand that. So yeah, but I really hope that my friends be able to join in next time to a stream or something. But yeah, until then, people, I really hope that all of you will have an amazing weekend and a great start of November. So, and again, this is Switch Diablo over and out.